Parents on Reddit, what was your I raised an idiot moment? When they mistook a leaky radiator hose for smoke. No problem, it kind of looks the same. They continued to drive the car home thinking it was on fire, then pulled it into the garage that is attached to the house. I don't think he's an idiot, but I think he lacks common sense, because he'll take a bite of food, it will be scalding hot. He'll cry and act like he's dying, but won't spit it out. He'll say, "Mommy, it's hot." And I'll say, "Well, I told you to wait for it to cool down." Or then blow on it or something to that effect. He will say no, and then continue taking scalding hot bites, and crying that it's too hot. In his defense, his father's the same way. At age 15, at the market, she was asked to get a large chicken, and she came back with a turkey. When I asked her to return the turkey and get a large chicken, she revealed that she thought that turkeys were literally adult chickens, and that chickens were young turkeys. As parents, we try to teach our kids everything they need to know, but it's hard to see the gaps sometimes. 3-year-old is preparing for his bath. His underwear looks strange, but I'm distracted. His brother. Kid takes off one pair of underwear, then a second pair, then a third. I ask why he is wearing 3 pairs of underwear. Kid looks at me like I'm an idiot. Mom told me to put on a clean pair every day. That non-autistic kid grew up to place the highest in math in our large Midwestern city. But even in his 20s, you have to make sure you give clear instructions, as he will follow rules to the letter. I haven't, and I hope I don't have to, but my dad said almost exactly that line in reference to my brother. My dad told me about a conversation they had that went like this, as best I remember. When his 3rd child was born and looked nothing like him, I told him he should get a DNA test, and he told me he wished he could, but it was too late. I asked what he meant, and he said by now all the DNA would have mixed, and there would be no way to tell who the child's father was. After I explained how DNA works to him, he still didn't believe me. When I asked him why he wouldn't just try on the off chance I was right, that rather than being on the hook for child support for a child he had literally seen for 12 hours total over the first year of its life, he said, "It's just 21 more years anyhow, why waste my time?" My son came to our house to visit. He didn't live with us. We weren't home, but we on our way home, so he let himself in. We walk in, and he's freaking out about breaking our newly adopted cat or something to that effect. I asked him what was she doing. She looked fine to me. He said she was vibrating when she sat on his lap. This is where he learned about cats purring. He hadn't been around a lot of cats, so IDK. I'm the idiot. I registered for college and spelled my middle name wrong, but didn't notice for 4 years, since they always abbreviated to my initial. I was showing my parents my diploma before walking on graduation day, and my mom just stared at me like I was special. Bonus points, I actually thought that was how it was spelled. I'm a parent, but my children are brilliant angels who can do no wrong. This is my mother's favorite story about me. When I was about 2, I climbed up on my sister's crib, jumped off and said, "Look mommy, I'm swimming." Of course I started bawling as I hit the floor. A neighbor came over, thin walls, hearing screaming, asks what's wrong, what happened, etc. I stop crying and tell her no, I show you, and proceeded to swim again. A couple of weeks ago, our Chihuahua was horny and trying to bone his sister. I said to husband that the dog reminded me of a frustrated teen lad and he needs a cold shower. 20 minutes later, 17 years old walks in holding a distraught and dripping dog wrapped in a towel. He'd overheard the conversation and literally put him in a cold shower in March in the UK. I swear to God, raising this kid is like painting by numbers, and every so often he goes dramatically over the lines. So, he's 11, right? Need to be clear about this. He's 11. We are watching Colbert Report and Steven says something happening in Congress, politics, whatever, is as likely as writing legislation with Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, or the Easter Bunny. I chuckle at the dumb joke, only half paying attention. My kid sits up and says, "Wait, Dad, what did he just say? What was? Can you explain that?" I'm thinking maybe he's confused about the politics, so I say these two powerful politicians aren't getting along. He says, "Yeah, No, right, okay, so what else did he say again? By this point my roommate, who had been pretty much staring at his laptop, ignoring the TV and the two of us, starts watching us closely. So I say yeah, so that's as unlikely as meeting Santa Claus. Yeah, or the Tooth Fairy. Yeah, right, or the Easter Bunny. What? My roommate lets out one small chuckle. I'm staring at him, a bit dumbfounded. Finally I ask, buddy, did you still, think there was a rabbit who snuck into the house and hid eggs? My roommate starts snickering. I'm just staring with a bewildered look. Kiddo is slumping down into the couch, angry teardrops welling up in his eyes. I don't know if he was embarrassed, mad at my roommate for laughing, or pissed off because he learned the Easter Bunny wasn't real in such a shitty way. He already informed me that he knew Santa Claus was just the parents about I dunno, 4 years earlier. So I thought we were cool. As I tucked him in that night, he explained I just figured he stopped coming because I'm too old. Definitely not an idiot, but I love this story about my kid. I used to pay the guy who took care of the yard for me by writing a check, putting it in a baggie, and sticking it under the mat. One weekend I was on the phone while writing the check, so I asked my son to put the check in the baggie under the mat for me. I went on with the conversation and forgot about it. A few days later, the guy who takes care of the lawn calls me up and says he looked everywhere but can't find the check. While we are talking, I open the door and lift up the mat, and no check. He says, "You are really great customers." So I was surprised that the check wasn't there. I was surprised too. I look around, behind bushes, under a decoration, no check. Then, I try to think like my son. I look under the mat inside the front door, and there's the check. We still laugh about it. My son is only 1 year old right now, and kids get a pass on being considered idiots until about age 3 or 4. He actually appears, both to us and to professionals, to be very intelligent. He definitely has advanced problem solving skills. He clearly didn't get it from me though, because I had quite a few of those moments as a kid. The most famous one in our family is from when I was 10. I had read this book on life in medieval times and how people used to shave by sanding their facial down with a pumice stone. So I tried to do it with sandpaper. Now, again, I was 10 years old and the only facial hair I had was a little bit of peach fuzz, and 2. It's just not a good idea to sand any part of your body. My face was red and flaky for about a week. I remember I came upstairs from my dad's workshop, my face stinging, and told my parents I think I did something not smart. OMG. He was fine until he had a kid. He would bring the baby over, 6mo, half dressed and bare feet sticking out of his carrier in the freezing cold, like 15 degrees. We've had multiple discussions about it over the years. He's 6 now, and he still doesn't dress him correctly for the weather. I've been tempted to report him at times. He's all that's what he wanted to wear, so I'll let him. Nope. You're the fucking parent, dude. Not a parent, but I sure as hell did something stupid just yesterday. My girlfriend came over, and she brought a suction dildo for sexy time. Me being the genius that I'm, slapped it against my forehead like an erotic unicorn. After a few minutes of wheezing and laughing I took it off. My girlfriend mentioned it put a small mark on my forehead, but I figured it would be fine in a few minutes. An hour later I look in the mirror and realize I gave myself a goddamn hickey. So now I'm walking around my house with a giant hickey on my forehead from trying to become a sexy narwhal. My parents are so proud of me. Not a parent, however I feel like this belongs here. When I was about 3 to 4 years old I stuck a pinto bean up my nose while at preschool. There was a sandbox that instead of being filled with sand was filled with pinto beans. I'm guessing they did this because beans make less of a mess. That was filled with toys for kids to play with. While playing at the table, I thought it would be fun to stick a bean up my nose, so I did exactly that. If I remember correctly, I was able to stick it up my nose and take it out successfully the first few times that I did it, but then it got stuck. So me being the smart little kid that I was, I decided not to tell anyone about Me not telling anyone was due to a mix of me being worried about what my parents would say and not knowing how I'd convey to them that I had stuck a bean up my nose and couldn't get it out. Eventually, a whole 7 hours later, while I was taking a bath, I decided it would be the right time to tell my parents what happened. I don't remember much after me telling my parents what happened, but from what they've told me they were both highly amused and incredibly concerned as to how they ended up trying to get pinto bean out of their soaking wet child's nose. Sadly, they couldn't get it out and so off to the ER we went.